Sega.
Virtua Cop 2.
Virtua Cop did pretty well, so in 1995 Sega released a sequel, innovatively titled Virtua Cop 2. Much like the original, you, and optionally a friend, traverse several locations taking out enough bad guys to keep Undertakers busy for months. The graphics are much more detailed, and the stage is more varied and interesting than the original game. First, we'll look at the 1995 arcade version running on Sega's Model 2A CRX hardware. This I'll emulate using the Sega Model 2 emulator. Then we'll compare it to the 1997 PC version, which was essentially a higher resolution version of the Sega Saturn port. This I'll run on Windows 10. Before we go into the arcade version, it's worth noting it contains a lot of flashing as guns are fired. Anyone with photosensitive epilepsy might want to skip past a lot of it. Like the original, the arcade game released in a number of different cabinets, all of which allowed the Virtua Cops to once again protect and liberate Virtua City from hordes of bad guys. This time Michael Rage Hardy and James Smarty Cools are joined by a third cop, Janet Marshall. But as you rarely see the cops in the game, apart from cutscenes and the occasional voice clip, it doesn't really change the gameplay very much. The arcade game begins with a rolling demo of the first stage, which explains how the targeting reticles work, and then goes on to explain how to reload your gun. A cinematic then shows bad guys clearing out a jewellery store before blowing up some cop cars. The two male cops then race up in their car, which pauses to reveal the top 10 scoreboard. The bad guys shoot out their windscreen, and when they finally arrive, the game title appears. This whole sequence then loops. When you start the game, you can choose from 3 starting files. Note here an issue with the emulator, the instructions are hidden behind the city. We'll start with the beginner file. The stage opens with the same scene the intro ended on, with you trying to stop the bad guys robbing a jewellery store. Note that the red crosshair here isn't in the real arcade game. This is something the Model 2 emulator adds to help you aim. The resolution of the arcade version is actually only 496 by 384 pixels, which is particularly low resolution by modern standards, but it looks good enough for the era. You can increase the resolution in the emulator and add anti-aliasing, but I wanted to capture how it actually looked in the arcade. There are a lot of scenery items you can shoot and interact with in the game. Here I shoot the lights in the store and make them fall down. If you shoot the poster, you unlock a machine gun, which helps wipe out a few more bad guys. The halfway score breakdown then appears. Next up is where Virtua Cop 2 really gets more action-packed than the original, with a high-speed car chase. It appears almost every car in the city has been taken over by bad guys. Eventually there's a huge pile-up, so you stop to take out a lot more bad guys. Even more come around the corner in trucks. And then you have to take on a tall building with windows containing both bad guys and trapped citizens. A hidden rifle helps out here, and eventually you get back to the driving sequence. You can choose where to go next. We'll go downtown. An exciting route then follows with multiple bad guy cars and this big jump, before some motorbikes attack. There's then an advert saying Jeff's drink, good taste, which seems to be some sort of Easter egg, in-joke perhaps. Eventually you arrive at a building site. An automatic gun means that you don't have to reload so often, but you lose your bonus guns whenever the bad guys hit you. After wiping out a small army of bad guys, you eventually meet the end of stage boss, apparently called Bull, or Bobby Louise. At least that's what the PC instructions call it. He fires a lot of rockets your way, along with chucking explosive barrels, crates, and eventually the whole van you were chasing. How it even got up there, I'm not sure. One more shot puts paid to him and completes the first file. The medium stage sees you trying to save the mayor from the worst cruise he's ever been on. A harbour side of bad guys, supported by a helicopter, shows that this cruise was never going to go smoothly. After clearing the harbour and helicopter, you make your way into the port building where, unsurprisingly, a lot more bad guys are waiting. You get much less time to shoot these than in the first stage, and I have to continue a few times. Once again, you can shoot down various parts of the scenery. Eventually you complete the scene, and leap on board the ferry to take out a lot more enemies. The fight on the boat takes you into a ballroom, where you can not only shoot bottles, but even play the cymbals and drums using your gun. I get so distracted that I get taken out by a grenade. Next you have to choose which route to take. The game locked up when I tried the bridge, so I'm going to one deck. This is meant to say on deck as the PC version does. Whoops. We next battle through a bar. Sadly the piano isn't playable with my gun. This leads into a kitchen with a lot of shootable objects, of course. After a lot of blasting you move upstairs, where a plaster bust of Pi from Virtua Fighter resides. Sadly you can't blast it though. A lift takes you onto the main deck, which features constant bad guys and swimming pools. The stage ends when the Aerodiver's end of stage boss appears. These 5 jetpack powered dudes launch rockets at you, whilst dancing about all over the place. They're not the hardest to defeat though. I'm not sure if I took the wrong path, but there's no sign of the mayor. Oh well, the file is complete at least. The expert stage takes you into an underground station. This stage gives me vibes of The Matrix, but predated that film by 4 years. You soon board the train, where the confined space means bad guys stack up behind one another, and it's easy to overlook the targeting reticles. Add in a lot of "don't shoot" civilians, and it can get a bit frantic. Much like a good action film, halfway through you find yourself on the roof of the train shooting a helicopter. The emulator falls apart a bit here, with some of the train not being drawn properly though. Eventually you get into the station. Amusingly, the bobbing motion of the train continues even when at a standstill. After another train station shootout, you eventually board the next train and end up fighting bad guys again. This train ride gets pretty crazy though, as another train starts ramming you. Eventually both trains come to a halt, but again notice both still bob around even though sitting still. The mid-stage break here leads you into an air vent. Quite why so many bad guys know you'll be down here is open to question though. This leads into a large underground bad guy base of some sort. But what is it here for? Well, after shooting a lot more bad guys, you eventually encounter a massive airship, underground. Right. Once again, shoot everything you see, and detonate the odd red barrel where possible. The roof opens and the airship escapes. This can't be good, right? Next up, the end of stage boss arrives, apparently named Gorse Bradley. He drives a wacky tank with flailing robot arms because why not? After a lot of shooting, he is eventually ejected from the tank and tries to attack you, so stage done. A bonus stage then follows where you need to stop the airship. This sees the return of the first Virtua Cop boss, Fang, and whilst the airship is easily shot down, he requires a fair few more shots. He's a pretty weak end of game boss though, given how dynamic and exciting the levels were up to this point. Once you take him out, the game ends. A credit sequence follows, where the handful of bad guys who somehow survived are rounded up. Janet finally puts in an appearance, and there's a 1990s high five, and that's pretty much it.
Crime Buster.
I'm a crime buster after taking out 783 bad guys, so I can shoot my name into the high score table. Now, enjoy a minute of this version without me talking over it. The PC version arrived in 1997 and was essentially a higher resolution Direct3D enhanced version of the Sega Saturn release. The box and CD shown here are my actual big box copy. I've not seen any of these online, so I guess it's a bit rare. In America, like the first game, it was rebranded as Virtua Squad 2. Now, before we dive into the PC version, I need to talk about a graphics issue with the Direct3D version of the game. It is possible to run the game using unaccelerated direct draw, as shown here. Note how the transparent window is just a mesh, and in particular look at the cop's hair on his forehead and the detail of the trees on the left. If you run the game in Direct3D on a modern graphics card, then everything can be filtered and anti-aliased, removing the pixelization. Also, the car window is now truly transparent rather than a mesh. However, you can no longer see the detail on the cop's hair, and the trees on the left look particularly blocky. On top of that, the navigation bar appears at the top and can't be hidden. Now usually I switch to DG Voodoo 2 here to improve the graphics. As you can now see the cop's hair and the trees look great, but the anti-aliasing solution in DG Voodoo 2 causes breakup on the road in the background, which is rather distracting. So, for this video, much like when I covered Daytona USA Deluxe, I'm going to use DG Voodoo 2 and no anti-aliasing, which looks like this. It might be pixelated, but so was the original arcade version, so let's just enjoy those chunky pixels and crack on. When you start the PC version, you see the Sega and AM2 logos, before the same intro sequence as the arcade plays out. The detail is somewhat reduced, but all the main elements are present. Obviously, the reload option on the PC is somewhat more mouse-based. The cinematic then plays, with the cop cars exploding and our heroes racing up. The car engine noise is rather loud here, and you can't hear them talking. The high score table displays as per the arcade, and the same car window breaking scene plays out before the title shows up. When you start the PC version, much like the original Virtua Cop, there's a bonus mode called Proving Ground here. This is a slightly weird mode where you choose a location and a starting point, then rapidly shoot bad guys and occasionally a rival cop who you're trying to beat. Apparently it's a simulation and not real, or something. Generally speaking, you only need to shoot in the middle of the screen. This mode is rather rubbish compared to the shooting gallery of the original Virtua Cop, and not worth spending long on. Anyway, over to the arcade mode. Look, the instructions are in front of the city here. On into the big chase then. This is pretty much identical to the arcade version. There are a few differences though, as you can shoot out car tyres here. You soon make your way into the bank and everything is pretty close to the arcade. The lights in here have had a glow up though, with much more detail than the arcade version. The hidden machine gun is present too. On the PC version, the screen doesn't go black and white when you're given the score breakdown, and now the rival car handles very badly as I shot the tyres out. The chase plays out like the arcade, and the huge crash occurs too, before you then set about wiping out the small army. Again, all the same scenes and enemy attacks occur here. The big building shootout is next, before you choose your next route. As per the arcade, we'll go downtown. The jump ramp here is a bit more basic looking, as are the motorbikes. And the Jeff's drink advert now says Jumbo's drink. Don't know why. I'm not sure if it is possible in the arcade, but you can actually take out bad guy cars in the PC version if you shoot them enough. The climbing out the car sequence animates very weirdly, but you're soon in the building site shooting everyone you see, and a few red barrels. Once again you get to the end of stage boss, who again assaults you with rockets, barrels, and the van. Once dispatched, you get your score breakdown. On to the second level on the PC, and we head to the docks again. The dockside sequence plays out the same, but the sound effects of the helicopter and ferry horn are way too loud. As per the arcade, you eventually move indoors. All the same scenery elements can be blasted here too. The jumping onto the ferry scene feels a bit basic, mind you. Eventually you get into the dance hall and play the cymbals and drums again. Amusingly, the drum skin says SST, who were the Sega Sound Team internal band. In the PC version, the sign is spelled correctly as on deck instead of one deck. We go again through the bar, the lengthy kitchen sequence, past the greatly simplified Virtua Fighter Pi statue, though there's also a picture of Sarah in this version, up the lift, and onto the deck. Shortly the aerodivers appear over a rather awful looking sea texture. I managed to defeat them all, but I'm running really low on continues now, with none left for the third stage. So, into the subway we go, and onto the train. There's an odd pause here as the scenery loads in, I find. Eventually we climb onto the roof and game over. Nice, 594 bad guy shot, top of the score table. Anyway, let's play the third stage again and jump back to where we were. There's no dying here, and no issues with the graphics that the Model 2 emulator had. Eventually we get into the station and the wobbly train continues to wobble. A machine gun helps clear the station though. Look, another Sarah picture. The PC version actually has a branching path here with a Saturn line option, but we'll take the arcade line so I can compare it to the arcade version. Once again, the crazy bad guy train starts ramming us. The scene ends with me diving underground, as per the arcade. It's on into the enemy base, with the computer sound effects being a bit too loud here. After a lot more bad guys, and continues, plus some quality machine gun use, we see the airship, and go on an extended killing spree. As per the arcade, the airship starts to get away, before we go into the hangar and face the silly flailing arm tank. It actually slaps me and I have to use a credit to continue. After a lot of high-speed mouse clicking, leading to some light RSI pains in my hand, I take him out and the level ends. Now, due to me starting this level alone, I don't move on to the Fang final scene, as you have to complete the entire game in just 5 credits, and I'm not good enough. Anyway, here's a minute of this version in action.
Help me!
Don't shoot!
Let's compare 3 locations in the game at the pixel level. First of all, here's the opening street scene of the arcade. Note in particular the texture detail, how the car windows are a mesh, and the many white lines on the road. Wiping across to the PC version, you can see how the textures are a bit simplified. The car windows are now true transparencies, but the road lines have entirely gone missing. Next up, here's the entrance to Pier 10 on the second stage of the arcade. Here note that the bridge has a transparent metalwork texture with parts you can see through, that the Pier 10 sign has grey elements holding it up, and the little towers next to the booth have white tops on them. Wiping to the PC version, it's much more zoomed in, and the bridge now has no transparent parts, the edges holding the Pier 10 sign are missing, and the little towers share the same texture as the roof of the booth. Lots of little compromises, I expect made for the Sega Saturn original version, then ported to the PC. There are also less windows on the ferry too. Finally, here's the subway on the arcade. There's a small glitch on the Model 2 emulator here where the roof of the train is in front of the pillar, but note in particular how everything is very purple, the size of the tiles on the floor and walls, and the large circular image on the signboard on the right. Wiping to the PC version, it becomes much less purple, the tiles are all a lot larger, and the circular graphic is entirely missing. On the plus side though, the PC version does gain chairs and a waste bin on the platform. Finally, let's put both versions head to head, with a few scenes compared.
Let's go!
The arcade version arrived in 1995 and was much more exciting and varied than the original game, although the final Fang fight is largely rubbish. The PC port features all the gameplay, but with graphical compromises and reductions, but nothing that greatly affects the presentation. Overall, it was a good port and one of the better Direct3D versions Sega made, as it didn't reduce the textures to a low-resolution mush. It's also compatible with Sega Saturn light guns if you had one of the special Japan-only add-on boards. I didn't have that though. If you like this comparison of Virtua Cop 2 or Virtua Squad 2 for the American audience, then give it a like, or subscribe, ring the bell, etc., and join me next time for the rare semi-sequel to Afterburner.